Can you switch from white wine to red wine or back and forth between red and white? Well, of course you can. I'm Paul Quaglini, wine expert with ABC Fine Wine and Spirits.
I'm Nathan Dale, wine expert with ABC Fine Wine and Spirits.
And we're going to give you a few simple guidelines to follow when you're switching from red to white and white to red. There are a few simple guidelines to follow when you're tasting wines together in a group. Typically, you would taste dry wines before sweet wines. You would taste young wines before old wines, although there are some exceptions. And typically, you would taste white wine before red wine. But these are just simple guidelines. There's nothing in any book that says you can't switch back and forth between white and red wine. Why should you drink a dry wine before a sweet wine? Well, if you drink the sweet wine first, it's going to make the dry wine seem even drier and perhaps maybe even somewhat acidic. So you always want to start with the dry wine and then go to the sweet wine. Again, there are exceptions. Oftentimes in France, they will serve foie gras as a first course. And what do they pair with foie gras? They serve the great wines of Sauternes, which are extremely sweet wines. So it just shows you that every rule has an exception to it.
The thing to remember is that most white wines are lighter than red wines. So starting with a white wine, your palate is going to be more receptive to that. If you go immediately into heavy wines, it can be kind of shocking to step back into lighter wines as you're drinking. But ultimately, the idea would be to start light and work heavy. That way your mouth can adjust to the flavors that are going to be becoming increasingly larger as you go.
Another rule of thumb is typically you would drink younger wines before older wines because the older wine has more complex flavors, more depth of flavor as it ages. But again, there are exceptions to this rule as well because sometimes older wines are more delicate, the flavors are subtler. So if you have a big, bold Cabernet and then an older, aged Cabernet with a lot of nuance, maybe that younger wine will overpower the older wine.
Do you have to clean your palate between each wine? Before I answer that question, like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell, and leave some comments below. I don't always clean my palate between wines. Sometimes I do with a sparkling wine or a light white wine, but also a great way to do it is with some neutral food. It's great to have simple water crackers around or a soft piece of cheese, something just to halt the action and refresh. For professional wine tastings too, a lot of times you can keep coffee beans around, keep them away from what you're doing, but having them there just to sniff, it's like hitting reset, again, as we've talked about. We've done a video in the past about what glassware you use with what wines. So yes, there are white wine glasses, and there are even varietal specific glasses, so Sauvignon Blanc glasses, Chardonnay glasses, etc. If you're going to use specific glassware, you want to at least have a white wine glass for your whites and a red wine glass for your reds. You can go as deep as you want into this and get varietal specific, or if you only have one good wine glass, I like to use a neutral Bordeaux glass for my entire tasting. That way, at least it's uniform as you go.
So now that you know a little more about drinking red wine before white wine or white wine before red wine, stop by one of our stores and buy a bottle of each. Or check us out at abcfws.com. And check out our other videos.